My name is Betty Tärning, and me and my co-workers, Eva-Maria Ternblad, who's also here, and Agneta Gulz, who's also here, and Magnus Haake has written this article called A Tale About Facts and Opinions, the Impact of a Drama Intervention on Middle School Students' Information Literacy. And me and Eva-Maria are here to present this very briefly. So, as you know, huge amounts of data are produced, collected. Oh, okay, now it doesn't work. I cannot change slides. Why can I not change slides? Help me.
I don't know.
Right, by putting your cursor on the screen where you have the main slide, and maybe it will start going. Yeah, just focus on that screen.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Oscar. So I'll take it from this. So as you know, huge amounts of data are produced, collected, and presented in all kinds of contexts today. And the ability to critically examine and evaluate information and arguments in relation to empirical evidence is often referred to as information literacy. And as there is so much information flooding around us, spreading in different channels, often without going through any review or scrutinizing, it is of utmost importance that we develop this information literacy ability and that we are able to orient ourselves in this information overload, especially as being information literate is an essential aspect of being able to participate in a modern society, making well-informed decisions, for example. However, research has shown that we are not as good at this as one would wish for, and this counts for both adults and youths. But here in this study, we only look at younger students in the 6th grade. But what we know is that we need more education in school regarding this topic, and we need to teach our youths how to use information effectively. And the study that we present here is one possible way of doing so. So the study is part of a larger project addressing 6th and 7th grade students' awareness and understanding of information literacy, and how this awareness can be scaffolded. And the project as such was done in collaboration with a local theatre group who specializes in live performances in school. So the study focuses on how attending to a play performed by this local theatre group and participating in a pedagogical follow-up could possibly affect students' understanding of certain aspects of information literacy. So the storyline in the play builds upon how the growth of internet has affected news and media reporting. And it visualizes, for example, the blurring of opinions and facts and how easy it is to get lost in misleading information. So the aim was to create an understanding of what information to trust and why, but also having a basic understanding of what science is and what science is not. And the pedagogical follow-up, it evolved around topics from the play. So topics from the play was enacted and discussed among the students, but also the actors from the local theatre group was there to moderate and to enact and discuss with the students. So for the study, we had 7 6th grade classes, and they were from 3 different schools in Sweden. And 4 of these 7 classes were assigned to the experimental condition. And as I said, the study was part of a larger project that also incorporated a pretest and discussions around short video clips, but we will not discuss these here. And besides the pretest and the video clips, there was also this play that I just told you about and the pedagogical follow-up. And after this, we also had a short post-test that was in the form of free text questions. So for this study or for this article, we have only focused on the free text questions. But what differed the experimental condition from the control condition was that in the experimental condition, the students, they answered the free text questions after having seen the play that then took up or concerned information literacy topics. And the control condition, they answered the free text questions before having seen the play. And the questions read like this. So question 1 was, 2 people meet in a television debate. Person 1 is a person working for a company that manufactures new herbal medicine against hypertension. And person 2 is a researcher, specialist in the field who warns for this new medicine. Who could be trusted and why? Question 2 was, if you meet someone skeptical of the measles vaccine, what are your recommendations for how to talk to such a person? Question 3, you meet with someone who says that there are aliens and then tells you that you cannot prove this to be false. How do you handle this statement? And the last question was, why could it be problematic that an app like, for example, TikTok chooses what type of feeds you are shown? And these 4 questions were presented in a random order for each student, and the students were told to answer at least 2 of them.
So to get to the results, in total, 26 students replied to the questionnaire, and slightly more, as Betty also told you before, in the experimental condition than in the control. We did both quantitative and qualitative analysis of their responses. We calculated response rates, for instance, and also the number of words written per student, just to see how they elaborated on the responses. We then made a thematic analysis of the students' responses, the free texts, and ended up with 10 to 14 categories per question, and we did that independently for 2 researchers did this. As you see, we had a highly reliable result of that. When it comes to the differences between the 2 conditions, we can see that we won't go into statistical details here, but instead concentrate on some aggregated data. So if you have any questions about that, you can reply to that later. But in general, we can see that the students that saw the play had a slightly higher response rate, not a very big difference, but still. These students also elaborated more on their answers than the students in the control group, but we don't have any larger differences at all. The most popular question to respond to was the one about TikTok and the problem with filtering bubbles. While the least popular question was, if you look at the response rates, was the one regarding vaccine skepticism. If instead looking at the number of words that the students actually wrote, they wrote very short answers on the question about the TV debate. And that could also be due to how the questions were phrased, of course. And the reason for that, the most popular question was TikTok, is perhaps not at all surprising, since many youths in Sweden use this application and talk to their parents about it and to their friends as well. Finally, when analyzing what the students actually wrote, it was clear that quite few students actually had the capacity to reason in more abstract terms. Many answers were also quite superficial, perhaps with an exception for the question about vaccine skepticism, where they actually elaborated quite well. Some examples regarding the other questions are presented here. For instance, when discussing the TV debate, very few students referred to the problem of false balance, which was actually what we wanted to catch here, that the scientist represents a larger research community and is in the debate alone. Instead, the students here often focused on the source as such, that the scientists was more knowledgeable than the salesperson, etc. And so it was, they knew this, but still the false balance issue wasn't really debated. The question about handling non-falsifiable statements, such as you cannot prove there aren't any aliens, was also quite hard for the students to grasp. And even if many of the students, and especially those in the experimental condition, pointed out the lack of proof for aliens actually existing, they did not really address this on a higher level. And when it came to TikTok, the students often chose to either say that filtering was quite good, since TikTok could take away dangerous and inappropriate things, but also that there was a risk for the spreading of fake news. But the actual issue with filter bubbles, and that the students were at risk for receiving a very narrow view of things, was very rarely elaborated on. A general observation is that many students emphasize that all people and voices should be accepted. For instance, also statements from people claiming that aliens exist, and this relates to freedom of speech and social equality, and that are often discussed in Swedish schools. So in sum, the effects of the play was quite modest, even though the students in the experimental conditions seems to get a slightly broader understanding of information literacy. And yet it's important to bear in mind that this kind of reasoning requires metacognitive skills, and these are not fully developed for this age group. And one might question if this is possible for these young students. But the topic is of great importance, and we think that the students obviously can learn something. But to get a more profound impact, they would probably have benefited more from more lessons and activities, and also perhaps some more deeper pedagogical settings, where, for instance, engaging in role play, etc. And we also believe it to be very important to present concrete examples and easy to grasp narratives to this age group.
It's more of a comment, because I teach teachers, like teacher candidates, so Bachelor of Education students, and actually a graduate course that are right now studying information literacy. Your research really resonated with me. Thank you. And the finding with TikTok, not at all surprising, but fantastic. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I found it interesting, the drama, as I study games. I also find with the role-playing activities some of the similarities that you change in terms of the relatedness with the content. My question was about the instrument for data collection. I noticed that you opt for text assessment, but there are other instruments that evaluate information literacy. Very quickly, you didn't find what you wanted to assess in terms of those instruments?
Those were used for another study or another article, so we have assessed those as well. But for this, we only looked at the free text questions. So yeah, the other ones were, like, the project as a whole concerns more both the data and information literacy, but these questions were more focused towards information literacy, I would say, and the other ones more towards data literacy, if there is a yeah, there's a slight difference, but we have looked at those the pre-test questions as well, but that is in another article.